Okay, now that you have done some practice with writing a body paragraph for an exploratory research essay, I want to focus on introductions. So looking back at the exploratory research essay portion of the research project assignment sheet, let's look at what belongs in an introduction. So we can see here it says the introduction of the exploratory research essay should establish, basically you need three things. First, some context about the topic you researched and what is important or significant about it. Second, your research question or what specific aspects of your topic you focused on in your research. And then finally, how you conducted your inquiry. So this is basically just a statement of the types of sources you consulted. Note here, because this is exploratory, it's not thesis-based, so you do not need a thesis statement for an exploratory essay. So you should not have a thesis for your exploratory essay. So I'm going to go over to this screen, and of course I will post these examples on iCollege along with this video. So working from the research question that I used for the sample annotated bibliography last week and the sample exploratory research body paragraph for Tuesday, this research question, how does long-term poverty affect family spending priorities? I went through the elements that I need in my introduction, and I just made some notes about that I'm going to then form into sentences to create my introduction. So first, some context about the topic I researched and what's important or significant about it. So here's what I was thinking about. Kind of bigger picture, economists have documented the fact that over the past, I think it's like 40 or 50 years, the wealth gap in the United States has been growing, which means that formerly middle-class families are more likely to experience poverty, and it's harder for families to get out of poverty. So this means for most people, poverty is not a temporary situation, that it can be long-term, lifelong, and even generational. And then I was thinking about how there's some social debate always, especially politically, on whether to expand or add restrictions to social services for the impoverished. And it's not uncommon to hear people with more financial privilege and security criticize the spending habits of the very poor, especially those receiving public assistance. I know this is something I see, for example, on my Facebook feed all the time. Some of my more well-off relatives, posting pretty ignorant things about people who receive welfare benefits such as usually food stamps or SNAP assistance is the one I see the most criticism of. Okay, but I'm going to make that sound a little more academic and not like I'm just mad at my snobby family members. Okay, so after that, of course, my research question I already know. How does long-term poverty affect family spending habits? I'm just going to make that into more of a sentence when I put this in my introduction. And then I'm going to end the paragraph with how I conducted my inquiry. So let's say I consulted 2 academic journal articles, focused on the long-term effects of poverty on families in general. 1 researched book, of course this is Evicted I'm talking about here, covering the impact of housing insecurity on individual families in an urban location. And I also found a U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics report on public assistance recipients' spending patterns. Okay, so I'm just going to take my notes here and I'm going to make them into sentences. So going to make this a sentence. Economists have documented the fact that the United States wealth gap has increased continuously over the past 50 years. As a result, formerly middle-class families, I just need a verb here, are more likely to experience poverty, and it is more difficult for families to get out of poverty once they are in it. And then this next sentence just kind of clarifies that idea. For most people, poverty is not temporary, rather it can be long-term, lifelong, or even generational. At the same time, there is often social and political debate. I'm not going to regarding whether to expand or add restrictions to social services for the impoverished. And it is not uncommon to hear those with more financial privilege and security criticize the spending habits of the very poor, especially those who receive public assistance. Okay, clear up my wording to here. People. Okay. To really understand why people in extreme poverty spend money in certain ways, we must ask, how does long-term poverty affect families' spending habits? Okay, and then in order to answer this question, I consulted 2 academic journal articles focused on I need an article there, long-term effects of poverty on families, 1 research book covering the impact of housing insecurity on individual families in an urban location. I want to get America in there. So let's say in a major American city, and a U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics report on public assistance recipients' spending patterns. Okay, so there I have it. I turned my notes into an introduction. I'm just going to make this all MLA format. Point, double space. Okay, so now I have something I can copy and paste. If I'm using the exploratory research body paragraph that I wrote the other day, I can just take this introduction, copy and paste it. Oop, just noticed a typo. You probably noticed it as I was typing continuously. I can copy and paste this into that document, and I have the beginning of my essay.